So this week, once again, we have Durin's Dwarven Drunkards, my warband, which is a warband of dwarf treasure hunters, facing off against the dastardly Skaven of Clan Eshin, Knights Marauders. So we rolled up a street fight mission. Now, in a street fight, you kind of set up the terrain, so you have this one main drag going across the board, and we're allowed to go in any buildings adjacent to the street. But everything else beyond is impassable, so it's really just there to look cool. Now you can see I painted my griffin statue that I mentioned I was going to do last week. It's not done. I want to do like a kind of bronze patina on it. Pretty excited to get to use a centerpiece here, this massive statue. This is actually like a G.I. Joe thing I found on eBay. Pretty bizarre. I kind of repainted it a little bit, made it more Mordheim-y. Pretty excited to get to use it. Alright, so here's Durin's Dwarven Drunkards. I don't know if you guys watched our last battle report or not. So, of course, not much has changed because this is our following game. But just go over everything real quick. My four heroes. Durin Bronzeheart, the Thane, the leader of my warband. Now he's got a pistol, a great weapon, helmet, light armor, shield, and a rope and hook. I have Bran Stonefist, my engineer, with a hammer, crossbow, light armor, shield, rope, and hook. I have Balin Stormbeard, my first slayer, with a dwarf axe, two dwarf axes rather, a rope and hook. And then I have Gork Grudgehammer, my other slayer, with a dwarf axe and a rope and hook. Alright, and I have four henchmen. I have a Thunderer with a hammer and crossbow, a Clansman with a great weapon, a Beardling with a hammer and sword, and then I have Poppy Weathersfield, a halfling scout, hired sword, and she has a bow, a helmet, and a rope and hook. So here we have Knights Marauders. Off to a fresh start after our last game. So the Assassin Adept, Knight the Ghost. He has a Warplock pistol and weeping blades. String Glisten, the Whisperer. The Sorcerer has two daggers and a sling. There's Toxic, the Silent, with fighting claws. And yeah, these names, Skaven names, they're pretty awesome. I have no idea how you're supposed to pronounce them. Alright, we got the second Black Skaven, Tradin the Diddly, with a dagger, a sword, and a sling. Then we have the two Night Runners, Garif and Skitab, both armed with a dagger, club, and sling. So for henchmen, my friend here brought 5 Verminkin, nicknamed the Skittering Shadows, and they have a dagger, club, and sling. So with the street fight, not much interesting to say about the deployment. We both just kind of set up on opposite sides. Now, with the street fight, you can win either by routing the enemy or by slipping past them and escaping through the other end. I don't have much of a shot at that victory condition with my Dwarven movement, but he certainly does. So I put my Halfling Scout up in this building. I really don't know why I didn't end up doing anything with it. The first few turns of the game here, we're pretty much just going to be moving towards each other. Not a whole lot interesting is going to be going on. But we have some pretty cool pictures. If you guys watched my last video report, I try to do a little better with steadier pictures and showing off the terrain a little bit better. So you guys can let me know if I manage that or not. So my second turn, I just inched up a bit further, thinking about using this Griffin as a shield. Kind of worried about him taking the high ground in those buildings and raining down all manner of slings on me. On his third turn, he just moves right on forward. Some of his henchmen jump the gap there between the two buildings. And his heroes kind of group up behind this broken building to lay an ambush. So here on my third turn, I finally moved past this Griffin. And now the two war bands are kind of staring each other in the face from across the street, which is pretty amusing. And on his turn, he just kind of shuffles some of his miniatures around a little bit. So Now I'm thinking he might just let me, walk on by and he'll get the win. He'll get off the board quicker than I could. But the Drunkards are here for violence. So they move up, get right in the rats' faces, hoping to attempt out a charge. And my shooting phase goes pretty good this turn. Poppy Weathersfield is able to kill a Night Runner who is standing up on that ledge. And my Thunderer knocks down Tradin the Diddly, his Black Skaven. So in his turn 4, his Black Skaven gets up, just kind of inches towards the wall a little bit. His Assassin Adept has made a breakout run towards my Halfling, which would be pretty much an easy lunch. So that's kind of a bummer. The rest of his guys just kind of hung back and started slinging away. But, between some pretty poor rolls to hit and, the Dwarf's higher toughness, his attacks just kind of all bounce off. So on my turn, the Beardling and the Clansman charge into combat with his Black Skaven. My Engineer is able to shoot and stun his Assassin Adept, who is bearing down on my Halfling. But when it comes to close combat, we both just roll dice and miss. So on Skaven turn 6, my opponent's Black Skaven with the Fighting Claws, Toxic, declares a charge against my Halfling Scout, and is well within range. The Night Runner declares a diving charge on my Beardling, but he fails his initiative test and manages to stun himself from the drop. So that's pretty bad luck right there. His Slingers, his henchmen up on the building, managed to knock down Goric Archhammer. Now in close combat, the Black Skaven finishes off Poppy Weathersfield, no problem. Easy lunch. Now Tradin the Diddly manages to stun my Beardling, but then the Clansman gets revenge and stuns him back. So the turn ends up ending with there being a whole mess of knocked over miniatures on the battlefield. So on Dwarf turn 6, Goric Archhammer stood up. Balin Stormbeard charged into combat with the downed Black Skaven. And my Thane, Durin Bronzeheart, did the same to the Night Runner. In shooting, my Engineer hit and stunned the Black Skaven with the claws. And then in combat, both my heroes finished off their stunned opponents. So things are looking pretty good for me. So on Skaven turn 7, his Assassin Adept stands up. And without any charges to declare, we go to shooting. His henchmen with their slings prove to be pretty ineffective again. Now, a sorcerer's been trying to cast a spell for the last couple turns. He has Warp Fire, and it finally goes off. And he casts it on my Thane, and he takes 3 Strength 4 hits, which all wound him, and he goes out of action. So yeah. So on Dwarf turn 7, I passed the route test, putting that leadership 9 to good use. My Beardling crawled out of line of sight of all of his slings. Now my 3 melee guys left, my 2 Slayers and my Clansmen, start moving towards his Assassin Adept and his Black Skaven. My Thunder and my Engineer, I took a couple shots at the his Assassin Adept, but weren't able to hit him. So Skaven turn 8. The Black Skaven with the Fighting Claws, Toxic, stands up. The Assassin Adept declared a charge against my Clansman in the front. Now his shooting managed to knock over my Thunder, and his Sorcerer got his Warp Fire spell off again, this time on Goric Archhammer. Now it didn't wound Goric Archhammer, thankfully, but it did wound Balin Stormbeard with its AoE blast, and he got knocked down. Now in close combat, his Assassin Adept wasn't able to do any damage to my Clansman, and my Clansman knocked him down. So on Dwarf turn 8, my Beardling and Thunder stood up, and Goric Archhammer declared a charge against his Assassin Adept, and wasn't able to wound. so no free experience for him. But my clansman did clean up and take that dirty rat right out of action. And with that, the Skaven rout, they failed their leadership test on leadership 6 without the assassin. And it's victory for Durin's Dwarven Drunkards. Alright, so on to the post game. So first up, Durin Bronzeheart, my Thane, made a full recovery. But Poppy Weathersfield, my halfling scout hired sword, did not, and she passed away. Now my opponent's injuries, he had 4 heroes go out of action, which is pretty harsh. Now his 2 Night Runners came up fine with full recoveries, as did the Black Skaven with sword, Trodden. But his Assassin Adept was robbed, which is a huge bummer. This is the guy with Weeping Pistols and Warplock. Sorry, I had that wrong. Weeping Blades and Warplock Pistols. And so yeah, some pretty valuable stuff that is now lost. Now for exploration, I found 4 shards and a ruined hovel, which was 3 extra gold. So not the best, but not bad. So got to make some advancement rolls. My Thane got a ballistic skill increase, so he'll be a little trustier with his pistol. I decided not to go with the weapon skill because he's already weapon skill 5. And 6 seemed pretty excessive at this point. Now, Balin Stormbeard also rolled up a weapon skill increase, as did my Clansman. Now, my Thunderers rolled up initiative, which is kind of disappointing. And my Beardling rolled leadership, which is really disappointing. So yeah, not too many good advancements, but probably for the good, so I don't continue pulling far ahead of my opponent here. Alright, so here's my warband at the end of the game. Bought a second Thunderer with a crossbow and hammer, and a couple lucky charms for my Slayers, and there they are. Now, we did play a third game. It was actually a multiplayer game between me, the Skaven player, and another buddy who was playing a mage warband, or mage school warband. Kind of a cool fan-made warband where all the heroes are spellcasters. Sadly, the Skaven player had to go after the first turn. His job requires him to be on call, and though we finished up the game, it wasn't very interesting. So the guy who's playing the mages achieved the objective without there being any blood spilt. So not really something I want to make a report out of. So thanks for watching. Please feel free to leave some feedback. I want to get better at this. And stay tuned for more battle reports in the future.